Just for the record, Pirates of the Caribbean is my favorite movie franchise ever, even over Star Wars. Sorry, Darth. I just love me some Captain Jack Sparrow. Okay, hear me out. Have we ever considered that Trump just might be the Captain Jack Sparrow of economics? I see you over there giving that side eye, Donald. No, seriously, I'm dead serious. Donald Trump may be the Captain Jack Sparrow of economics. Let me explain. Before some people get mad at me on the red or blue side, or both sides just get mad at me, this is not about being on the red team or the blue team. I'm talking about us decoding a strategy, a mindset, and maybe even a persona that just might be at play here so that we can better understand what's going on and how we can best position ourselves, especially when we look at how gold and silver have behaved over the last 6 weeks. Well, heck, the last 3 months in particular, since he's been elected. Okay, are you prepared to hear me out? All right. I know it's hard to see this Trump connection with a rum abusing, perpetual scheming pirate, but think about it. Captain Jack does an incredible job of pretending to be a bumbling, eccentric rogue character who always manages to come out on top. No matter how bad things are, it always works out for both of them. Captain Jack's secrets to success may be the same thing as Trump. Unorthodox thinking, deceptive behavior, creating chaos, exploring the chaos he often created, and some fast-talking salesman tactics. This matters because, like Captain Jack Sparrow, Trump thrives on creating and then exploiting the chaos he creates. I'm almost 200% certain that these tariffs aren't as random, chaotic, or as out of control as they are perceived. They actually seem to be part of a calculated plan. I'll explain this in a moment. Regardless of how you feel about him or his plan, that's not why we're on this channel. We're here to figure out how we can best prepare ourselves and create wealth in our lives. These tariffs, seemingly random and chaotic, might be just like Captain Jack Sparrow's quote-unquote broken compass, something that makes you think he's lost, but maybe, just maybe, he has a plan all along. What is good, Stackers University? It's so good to have you here with me today. As I shared last week, I am not affiliated with the red or the blue side, the donkeys or the elephants, the Hatfields or McCoys, Montagues or Capulets. In other words, I'm not a loyalist of any side, especially political, when it comes to my money. This means don't be in my comments about how I'm trying to be woke or pro-Trump. All I care about are the policies and how they shape money flows. None of us can influence these policies, so the least we can do is figure out how to profit from them. My interest for all of you is just to help you become better investors who get better returns. Now, I keep bringing up tariffs because of how incredibly impactful tariffs are, both good and bad, but more importantly, how it relates to our investments, your wallet, and the economy, especially when you consider how gold closed this week up 2% at $28.60, which continued its streak of 6 positive up weeks. While silver has finally put some distance between it and the $30 support level, it still closed the week down at $31.79. While the tariffs on Mexico and Canada have been delayed for 30 days, that wasn't the case for China. And as of right now, I can't emphasize this enough. Tariffs are dominating everything. Again, both good and bad. Tariffs are the reason why gold and silver are sending very different messages, performing differently, and why it's only going to get worse in the short term. And I'll explain that as well. Before I explain, let me just be clear. Some of this is my personal opinion and based on me doing a little game theory kind of logic or something that might feel like me wearing a tinfoil hat. But just hear me out. I started thinking about why these tariffs are so important to Trump and that there has to be a method to his madness. And here's actually what I came up with. One, I think it's about getting the recession over with. I know that may sound crazy, but just hear me out again. We all know that the stock market is way overpriced. Housing is in a precarious situation, and the economy is already sending warning signs. If you were the president, would you rather limp along for another year, delaying the inevitable recession, which will absolutely be weaponized by the blue team during midterm elections? And even though it's 2 years from now, they basically start campaigning a year out. If you get the recession and a weaker economy now, you get it out of the way and you can start to build your agenda. Because of reason number 2, lower interest rates. We already see him pushing Powell for lower interest rates. And he needs lower interest rates for a particular reason, because he needs to create some room in the budget for number 3, the Trump tax cuts. Any tax cuts have to be balanced out, and lower rates, aka cheaper money, makes it easier and allows him to make the case that the tax cuts are needed to stimulate the economy that is slowing down. Don't get me wrong, there's some other reasons such as America's First policies, the geopolitical leverage that he uses it for, midterm elections, and debt and deficit reduction. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that tariffs are either all good or all bad, and because they're not all doom and they're not all gloom. there are potential upsides, as it's estimated that tariffs will increase the federal revenue by over $1 trillion over the next 10 years. This will also narrow our trade deficits, which are absolutely good for our economy. At the same time, we just can't pretend that tariffs aren't inflationary and cumulative, meaning they add up over time, they increase consumer prices, lowers the GDP growth, and increases job losses. But before I continue, I want to pause for two things. One, I want to remind you about our For the Love and Money, where finance meets romance workshop on February 15th. It's just a fact that 64% of couples feel financially incompatible, 44% wish they shared a similar money mindset with their partner. Don't be one of those statistics another day. Come by yourself or bring your partner with you. Either way, you will walk away transformed with skills that will help you and your partner align your financial goals, understand and appreciate differences in spending, discuss money without arguing, and create a shared financial mission that strengthens your bond. That's happening February 15th. A link is in the description, and that will be with me and Professor Benjamin. Speaking of which, let's get to our Money Minute with Professor Benjamin right now.
Hey everyone, so excited to be with you for our all new Money Minute segment. Listen, we're 5 weeks into the new year. Old news, right? Not at all. We have 47 weeks to go. How are your financial goals shaping up? Whether you're saving for a big purchase, paying down debt, or just trying to build a stronger financial foundation, now's the time to check in and make sure you're on track. Don't have financial goals yet for 2025? Let's make some today. Maybe you set a goal to pay off $10,000 in credit card debt this year, or maybe you're focused on saving for an emergency fund or investing more for the future. Whatever it is, big goals can feel intimidating, but remember, baby steps. Start by breaking it down. Ask yourself, what can I do today, this week, this month to move closer to my goal? And remember, progress is progress no matter how small. Drop a comment below and let me know what your goal is and how you're going to crush it this year. See you next time on Money Minute. Let's make 2025 your best financial year yet.
Now, back to tariffs. All the uncertainty around tariffs, the economy, geopolitics, and everything else, it's no wonder why people are seeking gold for its safety and security. On top of this, we keep receiving conflicting economic data. Friday was a perfect example. We found that the US economy only added 143,000 jobs in January compared to the 170,000 expected number. And then at the same time, unemployment rate stood at 4%, which was compared to the expectations of 4.1%. This means that even though jobs added were lower, somehow unemployment went down. Say what? And then on top of that, wages grew even though the number of jobs created was lower. All this creates a real challenge for the Fed because a strong economy with full employment and easing inflation should allow the Fed to cut rates. But tariff really creates problems and concerns, especially when it comes to it potentially leading to a second wave of inflation and slowing down the economy. It's almost like we're fighting against ourselves. If we understand the motivation and the implication, the opportunities become so very clear. For example, I think the top 3 things we can do: 1, safe haven investments like metals. We've already seen a rush to the metals party because of tariffs. 2, US and Canadian energy. The 10% tariff on Canadian energy resources should drive prices higher, and that's not necessarily good, but we also have the geopolitical issues, which means that we're not going to get gas and oil from all the other places that are potentially seen as foes or anti-American. So that's going to put a higher premium on US Canadian energy. The same thing with US and Canadian steel, number 3. With the 25% tariff on those imports, it's going to be problematic, but domestic steel producers should see a significant boost. And I'll give you a couple examples. It's important to point out that if there is a slowdown or recession, we will see prices for oil, gas, steel, copper, those will weaken before rebounding rather quickly. So be prepared for that. Other investment opportunities include domestic focused sectors like shipping and trucking. If we're not getting things from all the other different countries and we're trying to do more within our boundaries and our borders, that means we're going to have to ship and truck more things. And number 5, global and shipping. Those are always good, as well as financials and healthcare. Those are other great sectors. By focusing on these strategies, these sectors, we as investors can really position ourselves to navigate the economic uncertainty introduced by the Trump tariffs. And ultimately, that's what matters. As you can see here on the screen, here are some additional ways to take advantage of what we're seeing. Remember, these are just examples, not financial advice, because you and only you have to own your own results. No matter what, tariffs are inflationary and destructive to our purchasing power, which means maintaining our standard of living is going to be much more challenging. That means that you have to do more on your end, like keeping your personal balance sheet right and making sure that you have the flexibility so that you can seize opportunities when others face personal crises. You also need to position yourself for the long-term gains, because ultimately there will be a reduction in purchasing power as well as the dollar. Ultimately, the gap we're seeing between gold and silver performance really highlights and should serve as a reminder that these markets are dynamic and complex. Even though we know the inevitable direction of where gold and silver are going to go, the gyrations is going to be a little rough and frustrating as we have to navigate a complex interplay of the economy, politics, market dynamics, as well as investor sentiment. While gold is, as the kids say, all gas and no brakes, silver's dual role provides support and headwinds at the same time. We are in one of those times right now. However, with tariffs and a second wave of inflation sure to come, I still believe silver is where you want to be for returns that exceed the market. As always, it starts with having your financials in good order, maintaining good reserves, and investing in your education so that you can have the courage to take action when everyone else is running away from investments. In the comments section, why do you think silver is not performing the same as gold? How do you think tariffs will impact consumer prices in the long run? Do you believe Trump's strategy with tariffs is intentional and calculated, or is it more reactive? Or just put an A plus in the comments so that everyone knows that you always stack smarter and never stop learning.